So what did you learn from that, from the futurity?
All kinds of things. Write your cows down. Jason Clark come up to me at a show one day. I was watching the saddle, and he goes, "Where's your list?" I said, "Oh, I'm first up or something, like second up. I don't need a list." He said, "So somebody else is controlling your paycheck then?" And I was like, "Okay." He come by later, and I was like, "Jason."
Yeah, I got my list. In the performance horse world, people who compete at an elite level don't usually climb to the top quickly. Like most achievements in life, it takes years of dedication, a strong work ethic, and the right mindset to stick with the process and grind it out. As a former college athlete, I know this to be true, and I'd add that through it all, you have to genuinely love what you're doing. My passion for horses and my competitive nature makes me hungry for answers. So I've set out to discover the psychology behind success stories living the Western lifestyle, to expand my awareness and apply what I've learned in my own life. This journey of discovery will be uncomfortable for me, but the reward will be unmeasurable. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy. This season on the Converse Cowboy, we loaded an RV and headed across Texas and Oklahoma, making 7 stops in 7 days. We began the trip with Dusty Whitford of Whitford Colt Company and Horse Pro TV. Dusty is former military, now a professional colt starter and 2-year-old specialist. I was excited to sit down with him and explore his mindset with horses, business, and in life. Yeah, so I'll just kind of continue that conversation we were just talking about. You know, anytime you start something new, there's always like a fear, you know, of the unknown. Like for me, like when I first started the podcast, or even a year before I started it, it was like I would create reasons or stories in my head as to why it wouldn't work. But I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast, I listened to somebody else talk about a Joe Rogan podcast, and they're like, "Can you tell me what Joe Rogan's first 20 podcasts were like?" Mm-hmm. And the answer is no. Nobody remembers Joe Rogan's first 20 podcasts. They only see the now, you know, what he's done now. Yeah. And so that really helped me get over the hump of just start it, you know, who gives a shit? Yep. Because nobody's going to remember your first 20 anyway.
If we didn't start it, we'd never be training horses. We screw up the first 50 horses we ever touch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So that's a good segue into how did you get into the, you know, starting 2-year-olds?
Well, the first one I started, I was, 9. So it starts because, you know, we didn't come from anything, so we had to all be little horse trainers, right? So at, 9 years old, I think I started my first one, you know, and we never had good horses. You know, we had to make them. So, I think I started 1 or 2 every year.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, and I just fell in love with it, I guess.
I'm curious to know at an early age, who was it that you kind of leaned on for advice outside of family members? Who was the people that you kind of leaned on?
Yeah. Well, we're up in Washington State, right? So there really wasn't much to lean on. So you read Western Horseman and but it's the 80s, so, so you're reading Western Horseman and you're in the Quarter Horse Journal. And then we took, lessons as much as we could. There was a gal, Melissa Neal, that still teaches up north. And we grew up in my parents, my mother was a cutter in the 70s, and then they moved to the west side of the state where there's no cattle, right? So they got into the pleasure side of things. And so Melissa Neal would give me lessons as soon as I was too mouthy for my mother. I think I was 6. When you can't, and your mother can't teach you anything anymore, because you know everything. Yeah. I'm 6, right? And so then Melissa comes in and tells me the same thing my mother's telling me, so she was a big one. There's a guy, Kip Larson, up there. It's a big Western pleasure trainer. Yeah. And then by the time I was 16, I think, I'd say, well, I guess as soon as I could drive out to Kip's, I'd go work his 2-year-olds and started, getting into the industry side of it, the business side. Yeah.
So were you riding outside horses at that time, or was that you still just riding your own stuff?
Yeah, a little bit.
Were you showing any?
I was. A whole bunch as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole bunch.
Did you gravitate towards the pleasure stuff because that's what was going on since you guys had to make that move?
It's just what we did. That's
Yeah.
what there is over there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I sure did.
At what point did you start to get more to the cow horse stuff?
After college.
Cutting, okay.
After college, I took the usual college break. You know, go play sports and be young and take
Yeah.
a quick break from horses and rodeo and, you know, try to be a bull rider like everybody else.
Right on.
Failed epically. I was a terrible bull rider.
What happened with that?
Just gave it up. Realized I wasn't
It hurt
any-
too bad?
I realized I wasn't any good. No, out of all the injuries I've had, I never once got hurt riding bulls.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Never
interesting.
once.
So you played hockey in college?
I did.
Where was that at?
Western Washington University.
So I played baseball in college. That was probably the best years of my life. How did you adapt? I'm assuming you had the goal to go to the NHL.
Oh, it's every kid's goal, yeah. So you realize you're not any good at that either.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, bull riding didn't work. Hockey
Yeah.
didn't work.
So that
Back to horses.
That's my question. Is like when I got done playing, it was like that's all I knew. That was my why. That was my purpose.
Right.
How did you handle that once you got done playing and you were told you're not going to play hockey ever again?
I bounced around. Jobs. Yeah, trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Joined the military. And that helped a lot. You know, and I could be on the fence. I could go either one. I could have made a career out of the military, or I could have made a career out of horses. So, yeah.
When you say the military helped a lot, what do you mean?
Just direction, purpose gives you something.
Uh-huh.
You know, you sign up during a time of war, you know, and there's an obvious purpose right away. War.
Yeah.
And so it gives you something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to think, like, you still have the camaraderie, the team atmosphere of being surrounded with guys, like the locker room feel.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think that's what I miss more than anything. You know, when I got done playing, it was like, here I am. My path was sales, so I went to sales, and I hear these people talk about having a like. They tried to compare it to they were trying to compare like the same mindset that we had like in baseball, and I'm like, no,
Good
man, it's
luck.
not the same shit. You
Good
know,
luck.
it's not the
Yeah.
same at all.
No. And the Army's, I mean, I don't know what it's like in the baseball locker room, but in the Army locker room, it's pretty filthy.
Pretty rank.
Yeah. If the Army had a locker room, it'd be a pretty rank one. You know, and it has to be because we're doing tick checks, you know, spreading butt cheeks looking for ticks. So
Get close.
you know, that's part of it. So the jokes will fly.
So I read somewhere you spent half your adult life in the military.
Yeah, but I keep getting older, so I say that, and now it's starting to be like, now it's like a third of my adult life. I'm getting gray.
But you want to essentially use what you're doing now to help veterans that have faced hardship to come work, to rehab, really find their purpose again.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I want to do two things. I want to do that exact thing with veterans because I know how much power the horses have in helping people. And I'll just say, in general, I'll just say with helping people because, of course, they can do so many things, right? They always do. It's a one-way street. The relationship between a horse and a human is one way. They don't get anything from us. There's never been a horse in my entire life that I've gone to pasture, you know, and it volunteered as tribute, you know, break me. So it's a one-way street. They're doing it all for us. I want to give veterans a place where they can just find purpose. Because you get out of the military, it's the same thing getting out of college. And every death that I know of personally in the military is suicide. I don't know anybody. I have no friends. I've lost no friends in combat, from combat. It's all suicide. And it is always the same thing. It's a lack of purpose, and things go downhill, and the wife leaves, and the job leaves, and the truck leaves. You're on the street, and then they're dead. And it's just purpose. You know, and the horses can provide that. And then the other side of it is that I would love to take young men that are headed. So that's the military. So those are coming out. I want to get them. I want to get somebody before they go in. So I want to find young men that are heading towards the juvenile system and intercept them and give them a place for the same thing to work.
Yeah.
You know, because 99% of those kids don't have dads.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the problem. That's the problem. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
They don't have dads. 99% of them.
Yeah.
And if we can intercept, one, I'd love to do more than that.
Yeah.
But if we can intercept one kid, big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talked about those folks coming out of the military, or just mental health in general, you know, is a big issue. I don't know the statistics right now, but I did read a Gallup poll from 2016 that showed that in the world, 87% of people are unhappy. You know, and I think it goes back to your point. They don't know what their purpose is, you know, and I think there's a lot of people, and that's really my whole goal in this whole thing, because, so for me, I always thought it was money. Always had an idea that if I got to this destination, then I'll be happy, you know.
Right.
So I do all the things. I go down the list. I make the money. I marry the pretty girl, and I've got all the shit. And then I'm at the top, and I'm looking around like, well, now what?
Yeah.
I still hadn't found my purpose, really, you know. So money's not the answer. Rule one, in case anybody's wondering, that's not going to buy you happiness. It can buy you shit that you enjoy and can create an experience. But I feel like there's so many people out there that are looking, that are hunting for their purpose. They may be scared to admit it, that's what they're looking for. I know I was. It was kind of an ego thing, you know. But how did you know? Like, when did you know, and how did you know that this is your purpose, what you're doing right now?
When I saw it transform in just little small ways. Like, I want to do big things, but you can still find the little small ones, and you can see how these horses can transform me, you know, and they can transform other people, you know, and you met my friends and they're helping transform them, right? And so when you see that, if you're paying attention, you can see a whole lot of purpose available to you that you can grab hold of if you want, if you're willing.
Yeah.
When
did that come to you? Like, when did you?
Just over time, it didn't come to me, you know.
Yeah.
It didn't come to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's just developed, and it's still not, you know, it's still not developed, because it'll never be developed. You know, it'll come to me until the day I die, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know.
And it will constantly evolve. Yeah. For whatever crazy reason, I was of the mindset that one day it was just going to happen, and I knew exactly what I was going to do.
This is happy. And
I was just always let down, you know. I was like, why didn't it come yet, you know? But you're right. It's like, okay, well, I'm interested in this. I'll try that. Right. And that leads to this, and this leads to.
Right. And everybody talks about, you can't be destination, location focused. That's just a fucking meme on Facebook. Like, what does that even mean? Like, cool, you said it. Now what? Like, what are the tangible? Like, what do I do? Like, the path. It's just consistency. It's a whole bunch of, it's consistently getting up and developing and pursuing and pursuing and pursuing and pursuing. It's a constant pursuit.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And I was watching something the other day, and they talk about consistency over intensity. You know, how many New Year's resolutions do we see that everybody's gung-ho in January, February, March, April? That shit just keeps going down. Yeah. So that's something I've really taken, is the consistency. If I can just do these small things every day. Yep. And then the compound effect is going to take over at some point. Yep. And then it just starts to snowball, you know? Yep. And so I'm starting to feel that, like with the show, Converse Cowboy. It's like very slow, and it's starting to gain momentum, but it's all about just the process of doing the stuff every day. And so I relate that back to horses, right? Yep. So the 2-year-old that you break every day.
Yeah, you want a little bit.
1%,
you want
really.
A little bit. You want a little bit. And it's hard, because I screw that up all the time. Everybody does. I don't care who you are. The top guys at the top of the field screw that up every day. You always want a little bit more. And I talked about that in a video recently, about how, especially in cutting, when we have a cow in front of us, and you can relate it to life, and people said that in the comments. They said, boy, you can relate this to life, you can relate this to sports. We work the cow in front of the horse in front of the cow, work, and we get them right into the sweet spot. And you're like, ooh, there it is. Work, left, right, stop, draw, and you can work your way right out of the sweet spot. Little bit. Work in the sweet spot and quit them in the sweet
Know when to
spot.
quit.
Quit in the sweet spot. Yeah. And I've worked my way out of the sweet spot 100 times. And you start your day on the horse and they're a C minus. And you work all the way up to a B plus, but hey, that's not an A minus, is it? You work all the way to a B plus, and you keep working, and you keep working, and you keep grinding. And you're down to a D minus. Then you work all the way up, and you're struggling, they're sweating, and it's terrible, and you work up to a C plus, and you quit. And you're like, whew, got to a C plus. And you're like, yeah, well, you just were at a B plus, you know?
Yeah.
Dumbass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many times do we do that in our own life, though? You know, where
All the time.
as a competitive person, I'm sure you're no different. Like, we have these expectations, and I am my own worst critic, you know. And so that's something that I've learned throughout this journey is don't judge it based on a result or an outcome, because that shit is out of your control, really. Especially when we're talking about cattle and horses, something with another mind.
Yep.
Versus just, and it sounds so woo-woo or cliche, whatever, just do your best. But really, that's all you can fucking do.
Yes.
Is you know, like, you have to be very honest with yourself and be aligned with what it is that you want to do. But you know, if you did your best today and tomorrow and the next day, be okay with it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's all there is pursuit and controllables. And if you're focusing on the uncontrollables, which is the result, you're toast.
Yeah.
You know? You're toast.
I read a lot of Stoic philosophy, and that really Stoicism 101 is control what you can control and don't worry about anything else. Let all that stuff go. So how does that relate? I know last night we were talking about some of the, you know, you had some clients that pulled some horses because of COVID-19.
Yep.
And we talked about the power of the mind and how stuff will just, it happens the way it's supposed to happen. I read a quote from a book called The Artist's Way, and it says, leap and the net will appear.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that, how you just trust the process and let it be what it'll be?
There's a controllable that's available to you in just trusting the process. And that is, I think, and we do it with our training business and we do it with the horse pro business, I firmly believe that if your sole focus in business is value, delivering value, you will have no problems in business at all. That's it. If that's your entire focus is value, then you'll have no problems. And I'm starting to believe myself a little bit because I'm seeing that take over and actually happen, right? So yeah, we had the same, you know, drop down in horses that I'm sure everybody has seen. You know, people losing their jobs during this. We're down 6, 7, 8 horses have left probably from it directly. And, you know, the other day we got like $60-something in checking, you know, and there's no savings. And then just one after another, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they just built right back up. Yeah. You know, but my focus wasn't, oh shit. My focus is different now than it used to be. My focus wasn't, oh shit. My focus is, let's deliver some more value. Whenever it gets rough, I try to think about what can I do, not to bring in new customers. What can I do this must mean that I'm not delivering something. So you can go you can go fight from your knees, or you can go fight from your feet.
When did that click for you that I need to be focusing on value versus I need to be hunting money down?
Again, I don't know that there's a time that it clicked. It's just trial and error in business. And like any entrepreneur, right, I've had like 10 failed businesses, you know? So before anybody's an overnight success, they were a failure for 20 years. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So it comes from failing at everything, obviously, every business I've ever had, I've completely failed at, or it would be a success right now. Yeah. So I'm a total failure.
Well, they say that...
And that's what taught me.
There are no failures, there's just learning experiences, right?
Yeah, unless you're in the Army, then you can be a fucking failure.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you learn how to toughen the hell up. Yeah. You know? There's no stupid questions, drill sergeant. That was a stupid comment. Like your borderline stupid question, yeah. You know, you bet there's stupid questions. You can fail. You can do all kinds of things wrong. None of that matters. What matters is what you do after.
That's right. And so that was my next question is, you know, what are some times, or maybe a perceived failure, that led you to something else that you were supposed to be doing?
Oh, Christ, the fraternity. You know, my first time in the fraternity was like my third time showing, I think. Showing a horse, and you're walking in the first round of the fraternity in Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't even put my hand down. I missed a cow and just walked out, you know. And so it's back to the drawing board, and I'll get the show stuff. But what was I getting enjoyment from? Spending $3,600 and somebody else's, a customer's $3,600 and blowing it in the fraternity, or training 2-year-olds? I love the 2-year-olds. I love to see them go on. That's all I want. It's my 2-year-olds to go somewhere else. Yeah. You know, go to somebody. That's the best part.
Yeah. So what did you learn from that, from the futurity?
Oh boy, all kinds of things. Write your cows down. It's the number one thing I'll say. Write your cows down. Jason Clark come up to me at a show one day. And I was watching the settle, and he goes, "Where's your list?" I said, "Oh, I'm first up or something, like second up. I don't need a list, you know." I didn't say it, you know, arrogantly, but he said, "Well, somebody else is." He said, "So somebody else is controlling your paycheck then?" And I was like, "Okay." You know, he'd come by later. Maybe it was the next day, and I was like, "Jason."
Yeah, I got my list.
Got my list. Don't talk to me.
That goes back to the failing to prepare is preparing to fail, right?
Yeah. There's a bigger lesson. The immediate small lesson is write your cows down. You can take that however you want and apply it to pretty much everything. Yeah. Write your cows down. There's a life lesson there.
Oh, that's good stuff, man. I'm curious to know, so I'm a firm believer that we are the sum of the 5 people we surround ourselves with the most.
Yep.
So who, for you right now, who are those top 5 guys that you either lean on for advice, or if you want to just run something by, maybe you're sharing ideas? Yeah. Who are those top 5 for
I'll
you?
answer that question in its entirety, but there's also the people you surround yourself with that if you're a leader, you're trying to bring them up, right? So there's the people that I want to bring me up, and then there's the people that I want to
That's a good point.
Bring up too.
That was going to be my
and
next
they're
thing.
always going to have a problem bigger than yours, or they should, you know, because if you're just soaking up somebody's information and then sitting on it, like.
Well, Joe Rogan talks about it,
Worthless.
right? He talks about pluses, minuses, and equals.
Yeah.
So you got to have people you look up to, you got to have people that you're helping, and then you got your peers that.
Yep. So Paul Hansma is a huge help to me. I go over there almost every week, and he always throws me a fresh cow. And that's a big deal, and I feel terrible about it. I don't like using his fresh cows. But he insists, you know, and then go cut another one if you need it, you know. But he never stops talking. He talks the whole time, so you're learning the whole time. Fons de Barbinson is, right now, I guess you would say he's a 2-year-old guy, but he's won $100,000 in his own right, you know. So he's an excellent showman. But he's working as a 2-year-old guy for Tatum Rice, and I think he's kind of found his niche where he wants to be, and he's a huge help. And it's the same thing, like, he's just willing to impart wisdom, right? Jesse Lennox, same thing, all over to his place, and we play hockey together. We play hockey in Dallas in the men's league, so that's kind of how we know each other. And he plays hockey like he rides. He's wild man. So he's super entertaining. We love to watch him play hockey. But right now, those are a few of my influences, and I think, I don't know for sure because I don't know everybody else, but I think I probably haul out more than anybody I know to other trainers. I spend about as much time on the road as I do at home. You know, you get out on your own away from the boss, and you think you're ready to go out on your own, and you do have to leap. You have to leap into the unknown like that, and that's the moment you find out you don't know a goddamn thing. Nothing.
Yeah.
You don't know jack shit.
Yeah.
You got to go right back to the boss, but you can take it and work a few days, and then go to the new boss. You know, go get help, and you know, and then you take it back home and you can apply it. And of course, you're more advanced, right? So but I haul out constantly. And Winston Hansma, I should say too. I worked for him part-time all last year, and I learned a hell of a lot from Winston Hansma.
And that takes a lot. You know, a lot of folks that are doing what you're doing out on your own may have a bit of an ego and may not be willing to admit, I can learn from somebody else, you know. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you realize you don't know shit. But I think the bigger point to that is you can always get better.
Yeah.
Dick Peeper's 81 years old, guy that owned Play Gun, still learning today, you know, and is willing to admit that. Yeah. You know?
Well, worked for Bill Riddle. He told me, Dusty, the reason why in my 70s, the only reason why I am competitive in my 70s, where the other people that were riding with him in his era that were at the top of the game, that they disappeared or retired, is because I was willing to adapt my game. Mm-hmm. I was willing to go learn what the young guys were doing.
Yeah. And so I'll use that as a segue into what you're doing now. And so I feel like you're an old soul, and so you're doing the horse training thing, but you're also recognize this opportunity with social media and what you're doing with Horse Pro TV. Can you talk about like blending or marrying that gap together?
Yeah. Horse Pro TV exists to give honest information to, well, there's millions of people. Just in the United States, there's like 10, 20 million trail riders in the United States that have had smoke blown up their ass for the last 20 years on what to do with the horse. And many of them have got hurt. And I've personally seen it. You know, I saw a lady get kicked in the belly one time by a horse and ruptured her spleen. It's a bad injury. She lived, but air flighted out, you know, by a horse with no respect. And so they've gotten dishonest information for the last 20 years from some online sources. Right, and I went out and bought a DVD, on a Colt starting DVD from one of the big guys, and this is 5-6 years ago. I just wanted to see what was on it, and it was like 90 minutes of perfect. And I thought, well, yeah, every time mine's perfect, it looks just like that. I'm like, what does he do when things go wrong? Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh shit, everybody wants to know what it looks like when it goes wrong. And then there was one aha moment. That's when the light bulb came on. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I had no clue, like, what am I going to do with this information? But I knew that there were people looking for it. Yeah. Right? And so I thought, well, when I was a kid in Western Horseman in the Quarter Horse Journal, you know, looking for information because I lived in Washington State and you don't have access to it, right? Well, they don't have access to it. So they're probably watching still today, right? Quarter Horse News, whatever they're watching, they're just watching it online. And they're seeing all these big guys in Texas, right? This is where we're kind of congregating the horse world. It's Fort Worth. They're seeing the big guys and probably wondering exactly what I wondered then and now, how they're doing it. And I don't care if they're riding trails and they never hit the show pen once in their life. I know a lot of those people, and they're still wondering how they put that handle on that horse, right? And so that was the goal, was to bring the honest information. So that's why, like, our videos, our episodes are pretty darn unedited, right? And then the feedback we've gotten back, it sounds like we're hitting the mark where we want, because the feedback we're getting back says, wow, thank you for not editing. And when that horse did X, Y, Z, I got to see how the trainer brought it through that problem. Right. You know, because they'll show a video, somebody will show a video on a sliding stop. How I start my 2-year-olds on reining stops, right? Slides. And they'll show them, and this is what I would do on a 2-year-old, but he's riding a finished horse.
Right.
It doesn't do anybody any good. You know, but I get it. They don't want to show the information. They don't want to show. Yeah. Because it's ugly.
I think it's cool. When I first saw it, I was like, man, this guy's on. Like, he's got it figured out. You're on to something.
I got nothing figured out.
Well, what I mean is, like, what you have figured out is what people want to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you do a very good job of blending that gap. Yeah.
Hope so. So yeah, we are trying to marry the recreational rider with the show industry. Mm-hmm. Not with the intent to get them to show, but just provide knowledge.
Yeah, horsemanship, right? So let's say somebody shows up here today and gives you $100 million or enough money to where you don't have to do anything ever again. What does Dusty Whitford do tomorrow?
have coffee, get up at 5. Take Shayna to breakfast. Work our horses. We'd have a barn full of 2-year-olds. And we have for the last few years, we have put together a crew of people, and they're just friends. They're paying you, but they're just friends. And that's the advice I got in the industry from trainers was don't ever do that. Don't ever make them your friend. And I've broken that rule 100 times.
Why do you think they said that?
Because they're always scrapping for their next buck. They don't think big. Keep them at a distance so you don't have to scrap as hard. Because maybe their friends have taken advantage of them. I don't know. I'd rather have a friend than a dollar. But I'd still train horses for my friends. And the crew we've put together, like, we're super freaking happy with. Like, we have the best people in this program. Awesome people. And they work hard. And I make them cry sometimes. Like when they got their head up their ass, And I make them cry. And then they...
Why is that? Because there's no fluff?
And they want to get better. Yeah. And then they just want to get better and better. Yeah. But I'm a drill sergeant. I can't, I'm going to change how I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I told Jenna Paulette the other day, country singer that was out here learning to ride, I said, you know what's really fun about cutting? She goes, what? It's being good at it. She goes, okay. She bared down, And so we'd train horses for our people, our friends, and ourselves. And Shayna would check fences a lot.
Yeah.
And we'd do basically the same thing, but we would have a hell of a lot of opportunity to do a lot of good with that money.
Yeah.
That's the one difference would be I'd have my programs.
Yeah.
Veteran program, juvenile program.
That's cool. And then you hear it said time and time again, money really just magnifies who you are. If you're a shitty person, it's going to magnify that you're a shitty person.
I can see that. I haven't heard that, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Your journey's very interesting. You've been through a lot of ups and downs. Seems like more downs than ups at this point. But what do you do when you feel overwhelmed, maybe unfocused? What do you do to kind of get realigned with why you're doing what you're doing? Because tell me this, are there days when you're just like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing all this shit for?
I pick up a wheelbarrow and I throw it. Shayna's always, she's seen that. And it's few and far between now. Well, in the beginning, when I'm eating McDonald's twice a day was my meals because I lived in a truck and that's all, I had nowhere to cook. I was pretty stressed out, dude. I tried to develop some systems that'll deal with stress, but it used to be my one thing was having patience with myself, which I had none, And boy, you can boil over, and if you don't have something in place to help with that.
Talk about that time when you were living in your truck. How long was that time in your life?
Well, I was in South Texas working for a guy, and I was getting divorced. My wife and son were in Washington State, and so I knew I needed to get back there. And so that was a few years ago. And I moved back. I finally headed up north and found a place to train that was close by. And I had two options. I can spend $1,500 a month on rent and go nowhere, or I can save $1,500 a month, or I can buy 2 cabs a month, right? And it's just the military and me and growing up poor. Like, it wasn't even that sounds like I'm proposing that like it's a question. There was no question. I'm like, go in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need a shitty apartment. It's Washington State's pretty expensive up there.
Where would you shower?
The gym.
Go to the gym.
The gym. Yeah. So just go to the gym. So I just park the truck at a truck stop, and bundle up under some blankets and you grow accustomed to like the knock on the window, cops, checking on you, because it's kind of weird to see like a nice dually with a guy sleeping in it.
Yeah.
You expect like a whole minivan or something. But I had the dually and just slept in the back, and then I met Shayna, my girlfriend, and imagine selling that to a girl. So like guys go up to girls in bars all the time, and they're like, "Here's what I'm selling,"
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, "So, I live in my truck,
Yeah.
I'm a horse trainer. I don't have a penny. Living off of McDonald's. I look like one of those runners with the bellies,
Yeah.
I don't think I pooped for like 2 months after I got off that diet.
That's great.
And so I moved over to Ellensburg, Washington. I kept upgrading facilities, trying to get to the next better place, a more professional place. And I moved over to Ellensburg from the west side of the state. And she would drive her little Jeep Cherokee on the weekends over to Ellensburg from Tri-Cities, so a couple hours. And then that gave me a place where I could stretch my legs out in the back.
Mm-hmm.
She'd bring her Jeep over so we could stretch out, and then she'd sleep at the truck stop with me in the back of the Jeep. One time I had these customers come over from Idaho to see their horse, and they were going to stay at the KOA because there wasn't a place on the ranch where they could stay. So okay, we'll see you in the morning. So we go at night, we go to the truck stop, we go to sleep, and in the morning we wake up and look out the window, we're like, oh shit! I'm like, hurry! Put your clothes on! They're parked right next to us at the truck stop with their living quarters trailer, and we just got the little Jeep there. So we hustled out of there as fast as we could. I'm sure they knew. I didn't say a word. I saw them in the morning. We just went to work working horses.
Yeah.
Kept my mouth shut.
So
We're just getting breakfast.
how long did that last for?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Wow.
Year and a half. It worked.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it,
Uh-huh.
but I do recommend it to somebody that wants to get somewhere. Paid for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
That just shows you
Right.
that determination and having what it takes to do what you love to do.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so important to have a strong why, really have a purpose.
It's the main reason. It's the main thing. If it is not in focus, you will not wake up in the truck at 40 degrees at 5 a.m. with any reason to get out from under the blankets.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But, you don't have to live in your truck, but I guarantee if you're going to start something, you're going to give some shit up.
Was there ever any doubts when you were living in that truck? Like, man, maybe I should just go get a real job. Maybe I should just.
No.
Maybe I should never.
No, I'd rather die free than go. I can't do it. Once you're free, like, you can't go work for somebody. You just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
I'm
it.
a free man. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'd be a terrible employee. Unless I can latch on to something purpose-wise out of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about a job.
Mm-hmm.
Go work a sales job or something.
Yeah.
I just can't do it.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I can relate.
Yeah.
There's no way I can go
I'm a free
back.
man. No way.
Yeah. So military, you've done some pretty cool shit. I like that. I just started asking this question. I like it. What scares you?
What scares me? My son not growing up in this lifestyle scares the crap out of me. I know that without a doubt that we have the best lifestyle. What we are doing is better. It is. It's totally arrogant. Don't care. We have a better lifestyle. Horses, cattle, ranches. Like, we have the answer to America's problems. It's on a ranch. So he's up in Washington State. He's getting brought up great. That's not my concern. That's my fear. Is that it wouldn't happen. I just want to make sure my son gets the same thing that I had.
What is it about the Western lifestyle that makes you say that it's better?
Well, I mean, look how we're raised. Responsible. Right? There's people burning down buildings right now. You know? We don't have any time for that. You know? Gotta go to work. I got horses to feed.
Yeah.
You know? And it was the same thing when I was a kid. And you do see it now. You do see it now a whole lot more. You know, where if you don't feed the horse, you know, Dad goes out and feeds it. If I'd feed my horse, it would not have not eaten. It would have eaten very well at somebody else's house. Mm-hmm. It'd have been gone in hours, not days. It'd been hours. That thing had been gone.
Yeah.
You know, responsibility. You know, a reason. It's a living, breathing animal. So, not everybody can get that. I totally get it. People got to live in cities. So, I guess we have some responsibility to provide it.
That's right. Let's talk about horses. Specifically, I want to know your opinion on bloodlines, breeding. If you could put any two horses together, what two would that be?
It wouldn't be two. It'd be a whole bunch. There's so many attributes of the horses, and I haven't ridden them all, right? Because I'm too new. I learn about these bloodlines as I go, you know. But I work for Woody Be Tough, and they're super strong and trainable, you know. And one-time royalty. I love one-time royalties. I've ridden 4 or 5, and they're just open horses, is what people say about them, and I'm experiencing that. And so I love how freaking cow smart they are. I love that they're a little bit hot. They're cowy. Counting checks, love them. That 3-year-old, that tiny little 3-year-old we got, so smart. And I guess they like personality. We had somebody out here that worked as like in the breeding department for counting checks. And she said, oh, they're all just full of personality. Just play. It's exactly how he is. I love him. So, I don't know. I'd combine a whole bunch of stuff. Love the Doc's Hickories, Indian Peps. Hickory Indian Peps. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I like the old stuff.
Right on. I saw a quote that you had that you said, let a cow make a cow horse.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that means to you?
Yeah. Something every cow horse trainer is going to say, right? Just making the cow the most important part. So if I had to choose, which I believe you can do cow and mechanics at the same time, but if I had to choose, I'm going to choose a cow. So I've got to work a cow in the show pen, you know. So
You think that gives them a purpose versus just going out and spinning them or pulling them around one way or
I
another?
want my horses to know why they're doing this job.
Yeah.
I want them to know why. Where did I hear that quote? Asencio Benuelos, and I will butcher his quote. But it made so much sense to me. It resonated that if you teach them how to do it and why, they will not come undone. If you make them do it, they will constantly come undone. And I see it. I've seen it in the practice pen. It shows, you know, where one guy is just in there, just fine tuning on things. And then there's another 6-year-old that comes in right after him, and he's getting his face jerked off and his belly kicked in. Clearly just doesn't know why he's cutting. You know, and I want them to know why. I want my horses to be universally ridden. I want anybody to be able to get on them. That's really important to me. And then when an amateur rides your horse and they can take it on, that's the biggest one. That's the ultimate goal. You know, if Boyd Rice gets on and can ride my horse, it probably just still means he's better than me. You know, but if the amateur can get on and take my product and go on with it, that is a way bigger compliment. I would expect Boyd Rice to be able to ride my horse.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You're one of a few people that doesn't really, you know, want to be in the spotlight, want to be in the Coliseum.
I don't need it.
You seem like you would much rather do the work behind the scenes, train these horses, and then you get more joy out of watching other people go show those horses.
I do. Yeah. Sarah was our very first amateur rider to go on and do something with a horse, and that was 2 weeks ago. We talked about that. And that was her practice horse at age 9, who had never been shown, you know. And at age 9, we finished him up, and he went into the Coliseum and made money. He didn't get through a run. He smoked him. He was outstanding.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing in the world.
That's a cool feeling, huh?
Yeah.
You said something last night that resonated with me, and you talked about how, like how powerful the human mind is.
Yeah.
And really, I don't think we even know how powerful we have. We're very limited. I mean, we have five senses. That's it.
Yep.
And I'm always asking the question, like, what else is out there? What do I not know? Like, what can I not see? What's the vision beyond what I can see?
Yep.
Can you talk about some of that stuff? Like, you said you're actually starting to believe some of what you're thinking now as far as that goes. Can you talk about some of the things that may be shedding light on that for you?
Yeah. Yeah. And in going out on my own and experiencing being a trainer without help, when I did, just confirmed to me that I don't know anything, right? And then you have choice there. And I thought to myself, oh shit, if I don't know this, what else don't I know? You know, like I probably don't know anything, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's where my pursuit comes in. And I'm sick with it. Like I've got a disease or something. Like I pursue like hockey right now. I don't care if I'm almost 40 years old. I want to be faster right now on the ice than I was in college. And I'm studying Russian skating programs like crazy on YouTube and stuff like that. So, mindset. You ever read Mind Gym, like gym workout gym?
Mm-mm.
Okay. He's a baseball shrink, right? And just the simplest of scenarios he could give in the book to dumb it down. This is talking about a pitcher, and it was a well-known one at the time. This is 10, 15 years ago, you know, and he's just asking him where are you telling yourself, don't throw a ball? Or are you telling yourself, I always throw strikes? Mm-hmm. Simple as that. And of course, so we can expand on that for years, you know, and talk about it. But everything from, like we talked about last night, pain tolerance. I have injuries like you wouldn't believe, you know, and when we talked about that, I firmly believe that we can shut off pain because it's just information. Mm-hmm. It's just giving me information that something's wrong, and then you can say, okay, thanks for giving me that information. I'm gonna shut that off now. And so if we can do that, God, what else can we do? Like, how much are we actually able to control?
Yeah.
Or tap into?
That's it.
Probably infinitely more than we'll ever even come close to understanding. We'll never even come close.
That's it.
But we can pursue it.
Yeah. The universe is a crazy thing, and I got into, I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen The Secret, but it talks about the law of attraction. Yeah. The best way I know to explain the law of attraction to people that don't know it is like, if you're shopping for a white Ford F-250 four-door, and that's all you're going and looking at and talking about and thinking about, you start to see white Ford four-door F-250s all over the fucking road. Yeah. Well, did they start making more of them? No. That's just where your attention's going. Yeah. So where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Yeah.
Even if there's no truth, like to the specifics about that book, that example right there is you cannot deny that example, right? No. It's undeniable. Yeah. So if all you take away from that book is where you put your attention is where you will get the result, right? Mm-hmm. Lesson learned.
That's it.
Yeah. So take the same thing. Are you going to throw balls? Or are you going to throw strikes?
That's it. Or you can apply it to finance, you know, or gosh, I don't want to have this debt, or I don't want to have, you know, these bills, or I can't afford it. You're focusing on all this negative shit. Yeah. And it applies to everything in the arena. If you're showing, God, I don't want to lose a cow. And for whatever reason, as humans, that's default. Like negative self-chatter is the default. Unless you're consciously aware of that, you're going to stay over here in this negative
Here's an example for you. So customers came down from Colorado a couple days ago. They're here for a big barrel race and dropped their horse off for training, barrel horse. And two girls, 20, 21 years old. And I looked at the customer and I said, you ever rode a cutting horse? And she said, no. And I said, well, get on. She was like, no. And I looked at her friend. I said, you want to ride one? She said, hell yeah. And she got on. And then when she was done, I said, look what just happened to you. I said, dusty life lesson right here. I said, you just let fear dictate your experiences in life. Mm-hmm. I said, you ever get an opportunity to do that again, and you let fear dictate your experiences, you will never experience anything.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And then we pulled out another cutting horse, and I said, okay, I got one more. I said, you want to ride a cutting horse?
Yeah.
And then she's like, I'm hooked. The best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, absolutely it is. But you let fear dictate your first experience.
Yeah.
And you didn't get to experience something in life because you were afraid. She went on to that barrel race. I asked her how she did 2 days ago on the first night. And she said she hit 2 barrels. And the next morning before she left, now I'm not going to take any credit for it. This is just an example, but she said she hit 2 barrels last night, and she had another run in the morning. I said, okay, 2 things. I said, you walk in there, you say, I'm a winner, and you say, I always make it around my barrels. No, I don't hit barrels. Mm-hmm. Huge difference. I always make it around my barrels, and I'm a winner.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, Dusty.
Yeah.
And she said she did. I said, how'd you do? She said, pretty damn good.
Little shift, big difference.
Yeah.
I
hope it sticks with her.
Yeah, I was chatting with Tyson Durfee about that. I think it was 2017. I forget the year. Maybe 16. He won the world calf roper, and it was just a freak deal where calf gets let out. He never nodded, but just kind of went with it anyway, and just kind of went to shit. That run. And so he said he got pissed off for about 10 minutes, and then after that, he reran that run as an 8-second run. He just reran that run as an 8-second run. He's like, I'm not going to let that ruin the rest of. And I think that was like night 4 or 5. He went on to win the world that year, but he had to do good every single night after that. Yeah. So that just shows like the power of the mind, and really reality is your perception. Whatever lens you're looking at the world through is your reality.
Yeah, it's the same damn world, no matter
you
what.
You create it in your head.
You got 2 ways to look at it.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of ways to look at it, but two different, one's positive, one's negative. It's going to be there regardless.
That's it, man. I'm curious to know, so you're very knowledgeable about the stuff we're talking about. What are some of the books? So for me, I like to gift books away. Like I give books away that I find interesting. And I don't know if you do the same, but what books would you gift that have impacted your life?
Mind Gym is the book that started me on that path. And it's a simple book. It's like this.
Yeah.
And it might not even be full of the best information. It doesn't matter. It got me curious.
Yeah.
It sparked my interest.
Are there any other resources? Are you following anybody that is
You like Gary Vaynerchuk?
Gary V, okay.
Yeah, because he's got that same mindset, that I do. Anybody that has no excuse for anything, I'm gonna give him a shot.
Yeah.
Gary V.
Yeah, Gary V's on a totally different level, man. That guy just does not stop.
No.
Doesn't stop.
And I love that.
Yeah. What about, I'll get into some lighter stuff. What about some Tacks? So what kind of saddle do you like to ride? What's your favorite saddle?
Oh, well, I like the older stuff, right? So the Tim Pylons, I work for Bill Riddle. And so he had the Tim Pylon custom for Bill Riddle in the Terry Riddle tree, I believe it was called. It was the flat seat. It was a whole flat seat deal. Mm-hmm. And I love those. Rawhide has been amazing to me. And it just so happens they make good saddles, so that's helpful.
It's a good fit, right?
Yeah.
Right on.
They make awesome saddles. So Rawhide has taken care of me, and I want to share that story because I just think they're awesome. Yep. But when I was up in Washington, and I was absolutely I'm still nobody, but felt like nobody, out in the middle of nowhere. And a customer had a custom saddle built and asked me to contact Rawhide about like possible sponsorship. And I'm absolutely nobody. But I told him my story, and I was honest, about what I didn't want to be honest about. And John Bergen and Brian Bergen they would not let me go to the fraternity in my old Bob's cow horse with a broken tree. Probably a good thing. Yeah. And they sent me 2 saddles to use for no reason. And I remember opening up the box on the show saddle, mm-hmm. And I'm like I didn't want to touch it. It freaked me out.
Yeah, that's nice? Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So they were awesome.
What about, let's talk about bits. Is there a certain bit maker that you like?
I'm super simple. I'm so simple. JB Guillory in Louisiana made my snaffles.
Mm-hmm.
But you see my tack room, I don't own a tie down, a bonnet, eye wire. I think we do own eye wire, but I don't use it. Super simple. So just straight barred snaffles like you'd use in the snaffle bit fraternity.
Yeah.
We've got a Tom Balding correction, Busters, and Israel's
What about show bits?
correction.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, super basic. And that's partially probably because my horses are always so young that you don't get to a clapper.
Right.
Big old clapper.
Yeah.
I'm not showing a 6-year-old aged event horse.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems to be the answer for everybody, though, at that age is...
Clapper.
Who doesn't want a clapper?
Yeah. JB Guillory makes great bits.
I've heard of that name. Where he's in South Louisiana?
I don't know where in Louisiana. I don't know.
I've heard of that name.
Yeah. The way he talks sounds like it's, yeah.
Yeah, North Louisiana, South Louisiana. It's like different states almost,
I know.
Give me a good one-liner. In the Western world, there's always like good one-liners thrown around, whether it's from a movie or whether it's one you use constantly.
Mine are always tough though. Like when I just tell them to pull their head out of their ass. Do I have any one-liners? Like 50 of them, but they just spew out of me like when it happens,
Send it to me.
I gotta think on it. I'm not sure.
DM me. Well, that's all I got, man. I enjoyed the shit out of it, Dusty. Like I always get earlier this week. I always get not always, but I get stumped sometimes with trying to format these questions and pull out be able to have you tell the best story, and then I always have to go back to, well, what do you want to know? That helps me form. That gets me back on track. Like, what the fuck do you want to know? And so all of these questions they're genuine. Like, this is stuff that I'm scratching my own itch, and that other people are going to get the benefit of. So I appreciate your time, and sitting down today. So very grateful. I had numerous takeaways from our conversation, but a few of the things that resonated with me was his commitment to a no excuses mentality and his willingness to sacrifice the short term for a long-term gain. Dusty's very selective as to who he surrounds himself with. He relies on the guidance of his mentors and as a mentor himself, passing along what he has learned for their benefit. This is something I incorporate in my own life, and it was affirming to hear someone else share that philosophy. I look forward to what's to come from Dusty and Horse Pro TV in the future, as well as what awaits us at our next stop. Until next time, be kind and stay grateful.